Discover Help presents Stress-Free Living with Ray Samich and Mr. Stress-Free, Ratanjit S. Sandhi. This audio program is an unscripted and unrehearsed conversation between Ray and Ratanjit. It is shared with you in hope of adding value to your life. We encourage you to listen to this program in its entirety to receive the full impact of its message. Sit back, relax, open your heart, mind, and soul to this edition of Stress-Free Living.
And this is Stress-Free Living. Good day, everyone. I'm Ray Samich. I'd like to introduce all of you to my dear friend, my colleague, my co-host, my brother, Ratanjit Sandhi. Ratanjit, how are you this fine day?
Wonderful, Ray. How are you?
I'm excellent, thank you, and excited. We've already had some nice conversations on Zoom with our people that are with us, and we welcome you however you are listening or watching us at this time. We hope that our show will add value to your life here today. Stress-Free Living intended to help reduce some of the stress that all of us feel when we just live our everyday life and when we are encountering different circumstances. Sometimes we have to sit back and maybe evaluate and analyze them a little bit to wonder why we feel stress in certain circumstances. And I think the topic today, Ratanjit, I hope we'll do that because the idea, the title is, why are the smartest people the least disciplined? And I think from there, if I am just tuning in, I'm thinking, well, gee, am I smart or not? Or maybe I don't think I am. How could I get smarter? What defines being smart? And then am I disciplined or undisciplined? And what really defines that? And so there's a lot of different ways that we could go here today with our audience. And we hope that we can answer some of those questions and maybe relieve again some of the stress that you're feeling if you don't think you're as smart as you should be, or if you are frustrated because you are smart and undisciplined, or however this may be affecting you. So let's start, Ratanjit, with some definitions. Okay. What do you think in today's world being smart means?
Well, see, there are many types of smartness. There's a IQ smartness. There are certain people who have a very high intelligence and they're smart. And then there are street smarts who have very high common sense. They are not as intelligent as typical IQ intelligence, but they are street smart. And then there is intuitively, there are people who are smart. Women are smarter than men in that area. My wife constantly proves that how stupid I am intuitively. And then there is a other smartness, which is called emotional smartness. There are people who connect to other people's feeling. And they have, there was a amazing statistics that in life, people who achieve higher success are generally part in the area of emotional smartness. They connect with people because they can, smart people, IQ smart people often, just alone IQ smart people often do not succeed in life and as the other side of people do. Of course, it doesn't mean that if you are IQ smart, you cannot have emotional intelligence, or you cannot be intuitive, or you cannot have common sense. So these are not exclusive.
Right.
They can be all together with some people, and that is the best combination.
Well, and you know, it's funny because when you talk about all those, I can picture in my mind people who are tremendous in any of those areas, and they really stand out because they do have any of those abilities. But when I can try to think of people that have all of them, or more than one or two, it really is rare. And I maybe that's the next question to ask you. Do you think that we maybe get lazy in developing the other areas and we just try to ride on the crest of the one that we know we have? For example, if somebody does know that they are a brilliant student, they can memorize, they can remember things, they can process and calculate in their brain. Maybe they say, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do, and I'm going to work on that and continue to make that better. And they don't pay attention to emotional intelligence. They don't pay attention to common sense development, because quite honestly, some of the most brilliant people, absolutely intellectually brilliant that I know, that once you get past that, they don't know how to, even communicate with people. They have a difficult time driving their car places because they don't pay attention to, simple things of life. Do you think we kind of get lazy when we find what intelligence we are the best at and we don't develop the other ones?
Well, ego has sometimes hindering factor, which is commonly happens to a lot of intelligent people. But there's the other side. That's where the discipline comes into play, Ray. There was an interesting thing. I was come across this article. It says, "Are you smarter than you think?" And then they list several characteristics. So one of the characteristics is that if you are messy, you are more intelligent than you think. So what happens? So what happens is intelligent people, their food is creativity. They're parked in curiosity, and they're constantly want to feed that curiosity. They have high when they create something. So they jump from one thing to another to another. They never have discipline to complete. To succeed, you cannot sell a half-completed article or half-completed item. You have to have the discipline to complete. And most of these highly intelligent people, they are into everything. They are constantly jumping from one end to another because they enjoy that aspect of life. And as a result, they don't create a true value in this world. Value is directly related to a finished idea, finished thing. And for that, you require discipline. So that's where the combination. Now, discipline can be taught. Discipline can be learned. See, I have I used to always, whenever I will pick up something, I would never place in the same place. It'll drive me crazy.
Right.
And we have so many places. My office is 3 offices. And so then I got so frustrated one time. I said, look, I have to develop this habit. So then I somehow got into this habit of when I pick up something, there a trigger goes in my mind of uncomfortableness. So suddenly I realized, why am I uncomfortable? Why am I uncomfortable? Then I suddenly remember that I have picked up a thing and have not placed it back. So now everything goes back into place when I pick up something from. So I have brought in that discipline, and which has made my life very, very easy. Otherwise, I was the best enemy of myself.
Yeah. So I do absolutely want to hear your ideas of other things just like that to get more discipline, because that's where we're going to end up with today, hopefully with the show, is improving our discipline. But I'm still trying to unravel the idea of smartness and why we don't want to improve ourselves. And it's interesting. I said it was laziness, and you used the term ego. I'm sure there's a lot of reasons, but I'd like to talk about both of those. And if you don't mind, I'm going to start with my idea of the laziness first of all. Then I want to talk about your ego and anything else we want to add into this. But to me, there's a comfort level. Use the term uncomfortable. There's a comfort level with me in the areas that I am better at. So when I know that I can communicate, that's one of my gifts that I have is I communicate all the time, in shows and stages, whatever it is. And I feel comfortable with that. So I'm never afraid to engage in conversation. That's probably what I would say is one of my strengths. Because I feel so comfortable with doing that, I spend all my time doing that. I'm writing, I'm emailing, I'm speaking, I'm constantly engaging in conversation. I don't take any time to develop other skill sets that I know I should have. I should be better at a lot of other areas. And who knows, maybe there's even things that I could be trying and doing that I could be better at than what I have fallen back on for my lifestyle. What about that comfort level? What about, is it laziness? Is it just that we get into a habit of things and we don't, am I afraid? Am I insecure to try other things? What do you think the reason is why people settle for just one area of intelligence and don't try to become that superstar that has 5 different areas of peaking intelligence?
Well, it's like food. If you like ice cream, just like I do, or potato chips or things like that, you gravitate towards that, right?
Yeah.
And that gives you a certain amount of harmonic uplift. So similarly, the things which you like to do, which makes you feel better, you are feeding your comfort or feeding your ego. And that is why in life, the first primary thing we have to learn to become a student. And if we develop a habit of a hunger within us to constantly learning, because we are curious. We all are curious, because when something new I learn, I enjoy that. And
well,
but
you brought up an interesting word, curious. I think our curiosity dissipates as we get more comfortable with what we know we're good at. So I don't want to try things as much. I mean, even when you talk about potato chips and food, as a kid, right away, you find out that I like ice cream. I like ice cream and I'm happy with ice cream. And I really don't want to try something else because I may not like it, but I know I like ice cream, and I think it gets worse as we get older. I think right now I very rarely, and maybe I'm unique and that's why I'm asking, but I very rarely go to the restaurants and try something new. I go to a restaurant and I pretty much say, I know I like this. I know it's going to be good. I want to enjoy it. So I order something that I've already had before. Maybe not at that restaurant, but that, that particular item. Is that normal, do you think? Or am I unusual in that regard? I'm not curious anymore.
Yeah, but that's where the discipline comes in. That is, allows us to try new things. That is also part of the discipline. Opens up your mind, opens up to receive new thoughts, opens up to listen. You said about you love to communicate.
Yeah.
And rightly or wrongly, you have taken for granted that communication is talking, expressing. But the other side of communication is listening. Other side of communication is absorbing. Other side of communication is understanding. So to be really a true communicator, which you are a good listener, is to understand those things as well. So that comes from constantly evaluating, constantly. So just like if you have never tried Indian food, for example, and you tried Indian food and you didn't like it, and then forever you say, oh, no, you tried one item and you didn't like it. But if you, for some reason, tried Indian food and you happen to like it, you open the door for new cuisines.
Right.
So similarly, to have an open mind is essential for continuously enhancing your smartness, continuously enhancing your progress. And so those are certain things you have to teach yourself. That is why the discipline comes in, and that is why the gift of habit comes in. We can cultivate certain habits which are going to help us. If you develop a habit of reading, there are people who don't like to read. And if you develop the habit of reading, obviously, it is a very good habit. And it allows you to have new opinion, new perspective of life. If you have a habit of thinking, habit of taking a thought process and constantly going, understanding and comprehending and exploring, you have a possibility of enhancing your knowledge and comprehension of things. So these are all habits. They eventually come via the route of discipline. So smartness, intelligence, and all that, until they are combined and guided by our disciplines, they do not create value. They compromise us. And yes, initially, you are going to be uncomfortable to take on new ideas, new things, try new thoughts or new subjects or new sports or new things, because your ego does not want to lose. Ego wants to be comfortable. We are basically insecure human beings, and we do not go into knowingly, which is going to make us more insecure. So that again has to be learned.
When I think about being open-minded, whether it's to trying new foods or whether it's to trying new experiences and doing different things, I never thought about those as being habits. I never thought about those as even being disciplines. I always thought of more just crossing that obstacle within my brain or my personality that doesn't allow me currently to try new things. I don't think of it in terms of a discipline or a habit. I just think of it as, well, I'm not an open-minded person. I'm comfortable within things that I have done before, and I don't want to try new things. It's interesting to put that in a connotation of a discipline, because that actually more intrigues me, to say that I'm missing something in life that I could be trying if I'm just willing to learn that new discipline. It kind of makes it more palatable that I'm willing to do that. I don't think that I'm changing my personality. I don't think that I am betraying my personality, if that even makes sense, how to say that. You know, as we get older, I think we get very much locked into who we think we are. And I don't mean that from a spiritual standpoint. I just mean who we think our personalities are. And we're unwilling to change. I mean, haven't you been around people that are so locked into how they act, and what they do and what they think, that they're very close-minded to try anything new, and they blame it on age. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Is that really just a discipline that they're not utilizing? They're not disciplined to try new things?
Yes, those are also habits, Ray.
Habits.
We have developed habits which makes us comfortable. See, there's a gentleman, you probably heard of him, Jeff Huffman. He's the founder of Priceline.
Yeah, sure.
And this gentleman, I know him personally, and one of the things he has developed a habit of, every single day, he has to come across some new ideas or new thought or new subject which he has no knowledge of whatsoever. He goes into that and reads it and learns it. As a result, he has started many companies and have been extremely successful. He gives new ideas. So this is again a habit. And
that's a great habit. That's one that really has led to his success, I'm sure.
Yeah. So when we go to school or college, we are given knowledge. We should also have a curriculum which should give us certain habits of success and habit of continuously enhancing our capabilities to add value and continuously having discipline to finish what we start or finish what is important, what is going to make a difference. So all that are part of our being as our habits.
All right. On that one, we're going to take a quick break here. This is Stress-Free Living. We're unraveling today the idea of smartness, of discipline. And the question really is why are the smartest people have the least amount of discipline in our life? And we're kind of starting with some definitions. What does it mean to be smart? What does it mean to have discipline or not? We've got much more to unravel on this edition of Stress-Free Living. Please stay with us. All right, we have 90 seconds for any of you. If you would like to give us some thoughts or some questions that I can ask Ratanjit in the next segment. Feel free if you have something to say.
Hey, Ray, this is
Yes.
Doug.
Yeah, Doug.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And,
Morning.
Of course, as always, you both go much deeper into these subjects than what I do. But I think a lot of it might just be a person's personality, what they are. For example, I traveled a fair amount, but didn't really like it with my job until I got married to my beautiful wife, who liked to go out and explore things and look at different stuff and all that. And so I started doing it also. And then I found out, well, I really like that. So now, I've changed to that. But there's another thing, and you mentioned you're a great communicator, but you don't care about other stuff. I think you can't be an expert at everything. So, I think there are certain things that we fell in. And yes, like Ratanjit said, let's get into a habit and do something else and explore a little bit more. But, you just can't be great at all the stuff. So you got to be great at a few things and then let the other things kind of just float along, in my opinion.
All right. Good thoughts. I will work those in. Thank you, Doug. Thanks. Anybody else? We have a little more time. Anyone have any questions that I can ask?
Dr. Jagjit Singh generally has a great comment.
Usually, or
no, but I'm fine. Let us go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I have already spoken to him. It is how do we define smartness and how do we define discipline?
Okay. Thank you. We are back on Stress-Free Living. Thank you so much for being with us today for our program. Again, talking about smartness, talking about discipline. Are the two together? Just because you are a smart person Are you more disciplined or less disciplined? And what does it mean to be smart? What does it mean to be disciplined in your life? And Ratanjit, you already opened a few doors for me in terms of my thoughts on all of these things. And during our break, one of our people asked a question that says, is it even possible that we can be an expert at more than one thing? Do you think we were designed? And let me take a step back. I'm trying to think about people I know and God has allowed me to meet hundreds of thousands of people, celebrities, and all kinds of people at all levels, big CEOs like you that we know. And the number of people that really are what we would say intelligent at multiple levels, being able to communicate emotionally, being able to have an intuition about things, having that street smart, common sense, having book smart, intelligence, IQ, really, really rare. I mean, you usually find people that are excessively good in one area, maybe two, rarely three or four or five. Is that just something that we're asking too much of our human body to be able to do? Should we be satisfied with being really good at one thing?
But see, Ray, being expert is a misnomer. There's no way anybody can be expert at anything. We have limited access of understanding and know-how. So you mentioned CEO. Now let's look at a CEO of a company. And under her, there are several experts, so-called experts, who are head of the department. There's an expert who is head of research, head of marketing, head of production, head of IT and finance, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And they all, in their field, are better than the CEO. So indirectly, if you assess that, CEO is the dumbest person in that company compared to all these other experts. And why that person is a CEO? Because he has or she has the vision to combine these expertise and bring that to a value which can be sold to people, which will enhance their life. So ultimately, expertise lies in a group or in a bigger circle. We have to form a team. It's a team game. Even in high basketball game, LeBron James alone cannot win the trophy. He has to have a team to complement, to understand his move, to cohesively work together. Mm-hmm. So you cannot be expert at anything. And as you explore, when you, supposing you ask a neurosurgeon who operates on your brain and cures all the neurological illnesses in your brain, you ask, do you totally understand how the brain functions? If she or he is honest, they're going to say, no, I am learning. So the more you know, you begin to realize how little you know. So the concept of being expert is all ego-based concept. And people who consider themselves as expert really undermine the growth of the company they are in, undermine the growth of the group they are in, undermine the growth of their own personal life.
When you talk about having vision, being able to see the future, being able to understand where you're at now so that I want to go someplace else. And it's a CEO's great trait, as you've mentioned, but it really is something that we all need in our life to be able to figure out what I need to do today to be able to get to where I need to be tomorrow. Is that part of intelligence, or is that part of discipline? That the visionary capabilities, is that something learned, or is that something that is within me?
See, ultimately, we have to ask ourselves, why am I here? And so intelligence is given, we have given these capabilities, and ultimately our purpose is to utilize them to collectively make the world we live in a better place. So adding highest value is what becomes your directive of life, not your intelligence, not your creativity. If you are part in your egoic satisfaction of creating something, I'm better at doing this, I'm going to only focus on doing that, eventually you are going to feel disappointed. You have seen a lot of intelligent, highly intelligent people suffering basically from being depressed because somehow or other they're all these things which they are creating and doing, nobody is recognizing them. They feel lonely, they feel detached. So a lot of intelligent people who are extraordinary, brilliant, genius people have difficulty in even having their family life together, their friendship together, because they are part in that egoic need of satisfaction that somebody should recognize them, how intelligent they are. So until you are utilizing, intelligence is a liability. And until you utilize this into a channel of adding the highest value, it has no purpose. It is going to destroy you. And that is what it does. So, that's why intelligent, very intelligent people do extremely stupid things.
Okay, so I apologize, first of all, because I told you about 15 minutes ago that we were talking about ego, and then I somehow got off track of that. So I promise we're going to come back to that because I really do want to understand. But in the meantime, you didn't answer my question, which I think is important to understand. Vision, okay? Because that is something that whether you are a CEO or whether you're just a CEO of your own life, you need to be more visionary. You need to have the ability to look and project where you want to go. So you need to have a goal in mind so that you can set your journey. Is that something that the intelligence that could be classified in your mind as an intelligence? Are some people born to be more visionary than others? Or is having vision, is that a discipline? Is that something that's a series of habits that we can learn?
Well, see, we call people visionaries who have developed a particular thing and launched a new idea and those kind of things.
Right.
So, yes, there are situations when you have those ideas, they come to you naturally and you master it, you propel it. But ultimately, the people who don't have the vision and they simply have talent and they are very good at doing things, they end up working for somebody and who has the vision to combine their talent into a channel. So, but if you understand the ultimate final vision is the same for everyone, and that vision is to add the highest value in every thought you conceive, every act you perform, everything you undertake, then that becomes a very meaningful life, because then at the end of that, you feel worth, your self-worth has enhanced. You begin to think that you have made a difference. Otherwise, all these intelligence and all that you otherwise looking to be recognized, looking to gather trophies and medals for your intelligence, and you are looking for what is in it for me. If you reverse that with all these things, how can I add value to everyone around me, to my environment, to my society? And then not think typically, what am I going to gain? This guy is not good enough. I can't add value to this person. So it has to be unconditional, because to take the poison out of this and make it a pure purpose of life, and as a consequence, your life automatically falls in place. And in only that condition, Ray, you will be able to embark what disciplines in life are. Otherwise, those disciplines are difficult. If you want to lose weight, if you want to eat right, and you are trying to do that just for yourself, you'll never be able to do that. You'll go only that far. You know, I remember a close friend who was a chain smoker, and he just loved smoking. And doctor would say, look, you are killing yourself. He said, look, doc, everyone dies. So I'm going to just die a little earlier, but I enjoy every day. And it so happened, his daughter got married, and she was blessed with this beautiful little angel, little girl. And this man, when he saw his grandchild, he was absolutely in love with her. But every time he would go near her, she would have an asthma attack. And finally, after third time, she was rushed to the hospital. Doctor asked mother, he says, does anybody smoke in your family? He said, yeah, my father does, but he doesn't smoke near her. He said, I want to talk to him. He called her father and said, look, you cannot go near her, period. Otherwise, you're going to kill her. He says, oh my God, I will die if I cannot see her. He says, then you have to quit smoking. Do you think this man who loved that smoking that much would quit? He did. He had a higher purpose. So to bring discipline in your life, your discipline, if they are only going to enhance you personally, would go only so far. But when they are tied to making the world around you better, initially that concept looks foreign. But when you conceive that concept and work towards that, to adding the highest value, discipline automatically fall into place.
You spent the last few minutes and you've shared that story before, but it's always heartwarming every time to hear of that, of the power of purpose, the power of love too is part of that story. And love is part of our adding the highest value, purpose, spreading the love. That's always so heartwarming. And it's always so reinforcing that says, okay, it's inspirational, it's motivational to me. But you've gone off on kind of a thought process of purpose as opposed to discipline or intelligence, and meaning that you have to utilize those discipline and intelligence to realize your purpose and then to fulfill that purpose. And I appreciate that and respect that, but I think many people like myself are stuck back at, before we get to purpose, before we get to what we're supposed to do. How are we supposed to get there? How do we utilize what we have and what we are, and what do we need to do to fulfill that purpose? So I know it's important to know where we're going to go, but I also need to understand kind of what do I have to do with what I've got to get there. What I think I've heard you say, though, which is really important, is that the title says about smart people, intelligent people, and why are we undisciplined? It's almost like, as you've been talking, we should really value more having discipline than having intelligence. It almost seems like no matter what level of intelligence you have or what type of intelligence you have, if you don't have discipline, then you're probably not going to fulfill your purpose. And it's interesting because when we talk about people out there, and if you're applying for a job, you talk about your areas of intelligence. When people talk about you, I think they talk about things that you're good at, your areas of intelligence. They really don't, we don't give discipline enough credit in our society. Do you agree with that? I think we concentrate maybe too much on our intelligence and not on our disciplines.
Well, see, Ray, disciplines by themselves are difficult to inculcate. I know what I should do. This person knew that he should quit smoking, but he could not bring that discipline in him. So regardless of how hard you try, discipline in absence of a compelling purpose will not come in place. See, you remember MAD, M-A-D-D, MAD, this
yes,
organization?
Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Yep.
Drunk driving. So this mother who was she was a person who was basically going along with her family. She was taking care of family. Her son was killed by a drunk driver. Suddenly it became a mission in her that she should make certain laws which would allow this incident not to repeat for other people. And it didn't matter how intelligent she was or how disciplined she was, because this purpose brought all these talented people together to make a society with the new laws, which is today, there are less people killed by drunk driver than at that point. So this is important, that until a compelling purpose hits you, you cannot bring in discipline or intelligence. All these things are nothing but liabilities.
Wow. Okay. Well, you've really, even after all these years, you've taught me something else here today in this program, because I would have thought intelligence is most important. Now, understand that there's different types of intelligence, so it's not just IQ intelligence, and developing those intelligences are so important. And then you introduced earlier in the show the importance of discipline, and I thought I was going to ride that horse and say, okay, so it's really all about discipline. And you're really telling me that you could be very intellectually strong in one area or multiple areas. We could have lots of discipline in those areas of our intelligence. And yet, if we don't have an understanding of our purpose, then really we're not utilizing either of those first two to the greatest level without having that third purpose in mind about us, not just in our mind, but who we become. So it's, the focus has to be on the last part of it, not on either of the first two parts. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. We're going to come back. We have a few minutes left, and we're going to really focus in. We understand what the purpose is. We certainly get it. How do we use our intelligence? How do we cause our disciplines to allow us to fulfill our purpose. That's what we're going to discuss on this edition of Stress Free Living. And we're going to talk to our Zoom people that are with us and see what they think. We'll be right back on Stress Free Living. All right. 90 seconds for you to share your thoughts.
Dr. Gahani, you haven't said anything.
Anyways, I'm trying to think and digest it, and I'm a slow thinker and slow doer. So, but I think this subject, as you're exploring it, it's a huge subject with many dimensions, and there has been a lot of research work done in this area. So I think through controlled studies, they've learned a lot more about smartness. So if you just stick to smartness, they feel, and they have confirmed this, that instead of when we tell kids they're smart, we handicap them because they stop doing hard work. They stop developing habits, they stop developing discipline. So they're finding that it's more than smartness, this persistence of effort is what matters, But again, it's very easy to judge other people. They're not doing this right or not doing that right. Each person is going to have a unique purpose, and they will do what suits them best. Now, we might say they are disorganized, but maybe they're happy. So, I think the challenge to assess others without knowing what keeps them, what makes you tick. Right? We need to know what makes you tick.
Ray, how are we doing time-wise?
Yes.
Back. This is Stress Free Living. Ray Samich with you and Ratanjit and Ray, reminding everybody that you can catch us a number of different ways. You can catch us at wintradio.com. You can catch us on our Zoom link and be part of our program with us every show. And that enables us to talk with you before and after and even during the program. And you can also catch us on our YouTube channel, Stress Free Living Radio. And we have over 50 shows that are posted out there of the several hundred radio shows that we have done over the years, but the last 50 or so that we have done also on YouTube are available for you to watch and or listen to and take with you on your smartphone and share with others. Ratanjit, during that break, kind of in keeping with everything else that we have been talking about, the idea of happiness was brought up by one of our Zoom guests, and what really makes us happy. We haven't talked about that at all. We've talked about using our intelligence. We've talked about learning our disciplines. We've talked about having purpose, of course. But where does happiness come in? Are some people basically just happier at doing certain things, and that really should be important in our short period of years on earth, is doing what makes us happy? So if somebody isn't disciplined, but they're happy, okay, they haven't developed their discipline, maybe they're not doing what their life was intended for them to do and use the intelligence that they were given, but they're happy. Is there something wrong with that?
But see, happiness is mostly misunderstood. When happiness, what we call happiness, is all relating to satisfying our five senses. What tastes good, what looks good, what feels good is happy. There is a word joy, which is different than happiness, and it can be also considered as a true, lasting, sustainable happiness. See, there is human body happiness, which is experienced by our five senses. then the happiness experienced by the real you, which is the power which brings life in you. And happiness experienced by that power is called joy. The other happiness, which is experienced by our five senses, is temporary and limited. If I love ice cream, it makes me happy. But if I keep eating ice cream, I'll be sick, I'll be unhappy. So all these five senses driven happiness has a very narrow, small window. If I don't have a home, I'm homeless, I'm unhappy. And somebody gives me a home, I'm happy. But then suddenly I expanded that to a huge mansion, and then suddenly all the problems with that mansion will make me unhappy. So similarly, all our happinesses which are experienced by our five senses are going to be limited. And yes, people use that randomly as a general statement. What makes everybody happy? Who am I to say he's happy? But the true happiness, sustainable happiness, only comes to us when we allow our inner self, the power which is enlivening us, feel happy. That power within us, the inner me, only will feel happy if the direction is reversed. Instead of what is in it for me, when I reverse the direction and make it happen for others, when I extend my love, when I serve somebody, the satisfaction which gives me is that joy. When I met somebody, I was in a plane, sitting in the first class, and suddenly a lady comes in, and she could merely walk. She was suffering from some leg pain or something. And I got up and offered her the seat and went to her seat in the general area. And during that, I never enjoyed that flight more than before, because there was inner satisfaction. So that happiness only happens to us when we make a difference to others unconditionally.
We only have a minute or 90 seconds left, Ratanjit. If we were to try to show this, teach this to young people, and try to get them away from understanding their, not understanding, but overvaluing their intelligence, overvaluing discipline, and instead tell them to focus on purpose, because that's the primary. How would you explain this to young people? How, and by young people, I don't mean kids, I mean teenagers, where they're very influential, young adults where they're very influential. What would you tell them? Anything different than you just said?
By telling nothing happens, Ray. You have to have them experience this joy. We have to take our kids to see when they help somebody, how do they feel? And once this habit is cultivated, they will eventually pick up a mission or a purpose, and their whole life will be dedicated towards that. They will have a higher incentive to learn constantly. They will have a higher incentive to bring discipline in their life. But instead of telling them, this is what we do, we have to practice, because children only copy what we do, our habits. They do not listen to our lectures, and we have to make them experience this.
Perfect answer to that question, Ratanjit. Thank you so very much. Before we leave here today, we know that there's many of our people that are listening today that are celebrating various holidays of the Christian faith, of the Jewish faith. So we want to wish them very pleasant holidays this particular weekend, and hope that you are enjoying all of the different things that Ratanjit is sharing with us and utilizing them, and perhaps over these days sharing these points with your families, and as you just said, Ratanjit, exemplifying them with your own life. Ratanjit, thank you very much for being with us here today and for sharing your wisdom and your love.
Thank you, Ray.
And to all of our listeners, thank you very much for enjoying us. We hope that you have enjoyed the show. Hope that we have added value to your life. Remember, we're all playing the same game. Have a great day. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you.